So hello, it's Ben Aris here, editor of BNE. I'm talking to Monica Ellena, who's our correspondent in the Caucasus. Monica, I was just giving you a quick call because last night there seems to have been quite a lot of upset in Yerevan. 6,000 people on the street. I've seen videos of water cannons, riot police. What's going on there?
Well, the problem started, in fact, last week when the utility regulators in Yerevan decided to raise by 16% the electricity tariff, partly meeting a request that came earlier in May from the Russian Electric Network of Armenia, which acquired the distribution company in 2006. It's essentially a Russian monopoly at the national level. Despite the fact that the company asked for 40% increase, the regulator understood that it was too high a hike for households in Armenia, where essentially one-third of the population live in poverty, right? So they increased it by 16%. But there was, despite the fact we're talking about 0.012 cents of euros, that's a high increase for households. Not also considering this is the third hike in 2 years.
Right.
So people are just getting fed up with that. Protests have been mounting for weeks since the company requested the raise in May, and then it just got out of control. It was a kind of tipping point. So thousands of people gathered in the central Yerevan. They moved towards the presidential palace, asking for the decision to be revoked, essentially.
Because yeah, go on.
What's interesting is that we've seen protests in the past, and it's difficult to say where it will go. But the majority of protesters are young, activists, non-partisan, who are just essentially fed up.
Because, of course, I mean, we've been reporting for a while that Armenia is on its knees as far as the economy is concerned. But I suppose the key question here is this the beginning of a coloured revolution, or is this more sort of in the style of European anti-austerity protests where people are just saying, you can't do this, we're very poor already?
One of the 237 people who were arrested and questioned told me that he thinks that the night was not passed in vain, didn't pass in vain, and whether it will move towards some kind of color revolution, the same, that Georgia had in 2004, or it will just stay within the normal protest, just level of, anti-austerity, as you said. Is difficult to say. But in fact, they want, first of all, the authorities to acknowledge that that's a problem. It's something that people cannot take, and retract the decision and move from there. So that's certainly the first element.
The last point I wanted to ask you about was you said that the utility is largely owned by Russians. Is that right? I mean, is there this sort of wider political problems going on here with Russia?
Well, essentially, Russia is the main supplier of energy in Armenia, and also it owns the majority of this. A lot of the state assets that Armenia had were over the years sold to Russia, mainly as a loan repayment. So Russia is extreme. Russia and Armenia's economy is strictly intertwined with Moscow, and on top of that, its economy, it really depends on the ebbs and flows of the Russian economy. So Armenia has been hit hard by the downturn in Russia. That has dented export, remittances. They have very close political economic ties. And one of the things that the person I interviewed told me is that young people are tired of these monopolies. The Armenian economy is highly monopolized, and that it's in the hands of a very small group of people who most of the time actually is not even in Armenia, live in Moscow, or in the hands of Russian oligarchs. And so they want a change. And these protests are certainly a very clear sign to the authorities that people want this change to happen, regardless of the political party.
The authorities have committed themselves to joining the Eurasia Economic Union. I mean, one of the few countries in that part of the world that is. So this is actually going to be bad for the government in so much as it's caught between a rock and a hard place. You know, it's moving closer to Russia on one hand because it has to, because it's so poor, and on the other hand, you're saying that there's a resentment building against Russia because of exactly this sort of problem, and you know, the Russians coming in effect, raising the tariffs and hitting the entire population. Is that right?
My feeling is that the resentment is not against Russia per se. What people want is redefining the terms of reference of the relationship with Russia. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the monopolies are certainly a problem because they prevent the country to move on. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that there is a hate toward Moscow. I think they just want to have a more balanced relationship where Armenians are able to take decisions because those decisions are the best for the country, mm-hmm. rather than being forced to take them because they favor Moscow. Great. Or a small group of people.
Okay. Monica, thanks very much for taking the time.